Good evening. This is Cynthia. It's so wonderful to be with you on this very first night of Right Out the Storm Intensive. A few housekeeping things here as you join in today. Um, please introduce yourself and let us know that you're here. And as we go through our evening together, please feel free to type comments, your questions. Let us know what you're thinking about what I'm sharing. And if you catch the replay, when you write some comments in, please put hashtag replay so I'll know that you saw it during a replay. I want to start this evening with a little story from my life. As women, we all have stories. It's wonderful actually to have stories to share. And excuse me, I've got a problem here. I'm going to have to shut off some sound here on my computer. Hopefully I won't keep getting dings tonight. Sorry about that. Technology. All right, let me get back to my story here. When I was younger, in my 40s, my ex-husband and I moved from another state to North Carolina. And when we moved to an area of North Carolina that for me was kind of strange. I had never lived in the country, and we ended up living out in the country, 15, 20 miles from any major city. And along the way, I finally met some people in the area and began to make some friends. And one of the women that befriended me, thank God, was a loving, caring person whose name was Jean. Now, Jean was about 10 years or so older than myself, about halfway between my mother's age and mine. My mother, by the way, was only 19 when she had me. So, anyway, that's a little side note. Jean was in between our ages. And in some ways, she was kind of like a big sister to me. In other ways, somewhat like a mother. She befriended me. She invited me for lunch and we'd chat. She invited me over to her home. I had her over to my home several times. And over a period of time, we became very close. In some ways, I think back and wonder, what was it that drew her to me? Was it just her heart and her desire to be kind, which she was a very kind person? Was there something about me that somehow met some need of hers? I'm really not sure. But I do know that she really went out of her way in many, many instances to assist me, to help me, to encourage me, to give me little gifts, to show me that she was thinking about me and that she recognized my value. One of the very sweet little gifts that she gave me was this small Demdako statue. It's a willow tree statue and it's named Wisdom. This is the first one that she gave me. And over a period of time, she gave me several others, including this one that's named Forget Me Not. These two little figures, along with a few others that I've collected since, help me to remember my friend. Because after a few years, she was told by her doctors that she had lung cancer. And very quickly, within a few months, even though she went through chemotherapy, she went through radiation therapy, it didn't take long and the cancer spread. And she went home, she went home to be with God very, very quickly. She went downhill very quickly. And it was so hard. Honestly, it was just so hard. I just didn't know quite how in the world to handle it. I missed her. I missed her for a long time. And reflecting recently about her once again, I realized that what she did for me, honestly, was just an amazing thing. It truly was an amazing thing. Because she spoke to my heart when I needed a friend and when I was lonely. Perhaps you've had times in your life where someone reached out to you and gave you something that managed to just touch your heart in such a deep way that you've kept that small thing to remind yourself of them. Or perhaps you see that gift in your home and it reminds you of that person and what they mean to you. In this first session of Ride Out the Storm, I want to talk with you about knowing ourselves as women, as people. How do we know ourselves? I'd like to introduce you to the real you. If you have your worksheet, which some of you may have, there's a symbol here of a woman's body. And I want to start by talking about our body. Our bodies, our physical bodies, are what we have, that our spirit and our mind and our emotions were all housed in this body. And we use this body to interact with our environment and interact with the world around us, interact with other people. In our body, at times, we may express the feelings of anxiety or stress or pressure that are affecting us and may be shown throughout our bodies. Our bodies may feel joy. We feel good at times. Other times we feel sad, and our bodies will reflect that. Another part of us is our heart and our spirit. I like to think of our physical heart, but of course, even more than that, our heart is our spirit. Our heart is the true core identity of our personhood. Our hearts are where we feel. Our heart is the part of us that hurts, that loves, that gets frustrated, that feels sad. With our heart, with this core part of our being, we interact with others and with ourselves. And then we have the mind or the soul. I like to think of the soul as this person, the thinking, reasoning person we are. In our mind, we have our conscious thoughts. For example, right now, you might be consciously thinking about listening to what I have to say, or paying attention to what your child says to you, or your husband, or perhaps there's a snatch of music coming in through the radio that catches your attention, and your mind and your conscious mind pays attention to that for a few minutes. Our subconscious mind is a part of our mind that's kind of underneath the surface there, kind of running on automatic pilot, trying to carrying us forward through all the things of the day that we must do. And then deep beneath that is our unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is where, kind of like a computer hard drive, is where all of our experiences, our responses, and our interpretation of experiences, all of the things that we've seen or heard or experienced are housed in memory in our unconscious mind. So this is the real us. We have a body. We have a heart, our spirit. We have our mind, our capacity to think and reason. But all those three parts of us are integral, totally integral. I was reminded of that when my father passed away almost 3 years ago now. Passed away on his 85th birthday, December 26th, 2016. My mother and I, my brother, and several other family members were with him there at the very end. Mom and I had gone back to the house for a few minutes, and then we went back to the hospital. And when we arrived, he was waiting for us to arrive. He was no longer able to talk, but he looked at us both and he tried to smile. He tried to say something. And I was patting his cheek and saying, Daddy, we love you. We love you, Dad. It's okay. And he was just looking at me. And all of a sudden, the color of his skin slightly changed and the light went out of his eyes and he was gone. And just that fast, everything stopped. The mind stopped, the heart stopped, the body stopped, the breathing stopped, the heart ceased to beat because his spirit passed. And that's, to me, such a beautiful picture because I know that he was ready to go. It was his 85th birthday. And he passed to have a big birthday party in heaven, the best birthday of his entire life, because he always complained that having a birthday the day after Christmas just didn't work for him, and he didn't get very many presents, and his birthday was always mixed up with Christmas, and it was hard for him to ever feel like anybody cared about his birthday. And I thought it was just a wonderful, caring gift from God that he passed away and went on to heaven on his birthday. So there for me is an example of just an experience that illustrated to me how much our core identity is bound up in our body, with our body, mind, and spirit. So how do we see ourselves? With our bodies, we see with our eyes. We look around, we observe things, and many times this observation is just kind of an unconsidered observation. I know that when we go driving somewhere, sometimes we're on automatic pilot, and we're dependent on our subconscious mind to pay attention to what the other drivers are doing. We're maybe talking with someone, listening to music, listening to the radio, and we're driving down the street. And truly, we're not consciously present. We're not observing too well what's going on around us, because our eyes sometimes just are kind of an unconsidered observation. We're not necessarily considering what we're seeing. We're not very present with what we're seeing. Another way that we see is with our heart. How do we see with our heart? I believe that we see with our heart when we consider the feelings of someone else, when we allow others to be who they are without any kind of prejudice or judgment. Seeing with our heart and our spirit is like perceiving without prejudice, without preconceived notions. That is not always easy to do. When we see others and then the logical part of our mind starts taking over, we may observe and see what's happening and begin to make judgments about it. And there's where seeing from the heart kind of goes out the window. So the third way of seeing is seeing with our mind, seeing through reasoning and observation and explaining things to someone else and to ourselves. So we take these situations and we take a hard look at them, perhaps observing and making some sort of judgment about it, some sort of trying to understand what's happening. And many times when we do that in our relationships, our heart and our spirit and our response to that person kind of gets shoved aside. So, how do we see ourselves in these situations? With our eyes, we may observe our countenance in the mirror. We may see our hands and the skin of our hands aging, as I am. With our eyes, we may not really notice what's happening with ourselves, or we try not to notice. With our hearts and our spirits, we may actually take time to listen to our heart and listen to our spirit to know ourselves better. And in those moments, we're able to give ourselves some compassion. We can perhaps see what we're about and perceive that without prejudice against ourselves. And another way we can understand ourselves is to use our reasoning to think about what we're doing and how we think and what are the underlying thought patterns that we have and the considerations and values and strengths. There's much to unpack there. As people, as women, we have many capacities. We have many abilities. But there are four capacities that we have as people that I'd like to talk to you about after a few minutes. With our minds, we have the capacity to think and reason. All through our childhood, early adulthood, we've been learning and growing and reasoning. But often, as life gets so busy, we stop working to learn. We stop learning. We stop loving to learn. We stop reasoning very much and pretty much go on automatic pilot. We just continue to do the things we do because we like to do them and we're used to doing them, and that's the way we do them. Or we continue to be the way we are because that's the way we are, and that's the way we've always been. So that's the way we are, and we maybe will never change those things. But true reasoning may take us to a reflective point to say, maybe I need to think about the ways I do things and what kind of person I am and what am I truly all about. Another aspect or capacity of a person is that we can experience deep longing. I would imagine that you have experienced deep longing in your life. You perhaps are experiencing deep longing right now. There have been times in my life that I've been extremely lonely. I was a single parent for years. I've had many years of singlehood and adulthood, some short lived relationships that did not always end well. And in those situations and in those periods of time, there were times that I was extremely lonely. I had this deep longing in my heart that I would have an intimate and caring and loving relationship with someone. And during those times, I honestly, I would occasionally call my mother late at night, my poor mom, and she would listen to me cry and listen to me with my self pity and my loneliness. And she would lovingly say, "I'm so sorry, Cynthia. I wish I could help you. I'm so sorry. It will get better. Find something to be happy about. Find something that you can find some joy in today." She always gave me such unbelievably good advice. But she didn't push it on me. She just lovingly supported me in my longing. Perhaps you have some longings in your heart right now. Some things that you long to do or long to be or long to experience. And my message to you today is, I'm so sorry you feel such longing and have not been able to have that longing fulfilled. One day, God willing, spirit willing, you will have that longing fulfilled. Another thing that we can, another capacity that we have as people is to feel and experience emotion. So we have this deep longing, and then we have this ability to feel emotion. And emotions go the gamut. They go from extremely what we could consider negative emotions to all the way to ecstatically joyful emotion. And every emotion in this continuum is just an emotion. It's not bad or good or black or white or evil or and good. There's not this dichotomy of something being opposite. Emotions are just emotions. The feeling that we have, this capacity to feel, allows us to use those feelings to learn, to grow, to interact with others, to think, and to reason about what we're doing and who we are. But often we see emotions as bad things because when we're feeling certain emotions, for example, frustration or anger, we act out of those emotions inappropriately. And then, of course, comes the guilt and perhaps recriminations and more difficult things. And pretty soon we come to the conclusion that to feel these emotions is the big problem. To feel emotions is a negative thing. So if we close down the emotions that we consider negative, we may simultaneously close down our hearts to emotions that are good, that are positive, that would give us joy. So would like to encourage you to reflect a little bit about what it means to actually feel and express emotion and to experience emotion. Having balanced emotions in our lives towards all other living things. Having balanced emotions towards inanimate objects. If our emotions are balanced towards other living things and other living, especially people, we're not going to go to the extreme of rejecting people, nor are we going to go to the extreme of holding on too tightly and trying to manipulate and control people. We won't reject, nor will we hold too tightly. When we have balance towards inanimate objects like this one, we may be balanced in approach with this and be fond of it because it has an emotional attachment. It has a memory attached to it. But a balanced emotion towards things will mean that we don't have to be a hoarder, nor do we have to get rid of everything. We can be in the middle. We can have some beautiful things that are meaningful to us. We can create things that are meaningful to us, as I do at times. And in those joyous moments of creativity, of arranging our homes, of making a garden, of doing some craft, in those joyous moments, we fill our heart and spirit with contentment and with balance and with joy. The last capacity as a person I'd like to talk with you about is that with our mind and our soul, we can set direction in our lives, we can make choices, and we can fulfill our goals. So we have these four capacities: to think, to reason, the capacity to choose, and to set direction in our life. We don't have to just go with the flow. We don't have to just allow everything that happens in life just to keep on running over us and keep on pushing us on and feel like we're on some sort of treadmill that we're never going to get off of. No, we can take a step back at times and reassess and decide whether we want to go this direction or not, whether we want to make these choices, or perhaps there's a better choice in a different direction to go. There are five core assumptions that we could talk about or make about self awareness or mindfulness, as some people call it. To be self-aware is to live in the present, and being self-aware has many, many aspects to it. As we become more self-aware, first of all, we will realize that we can, it's more important to be a better person than just to feel better. I'm not here tonight just to try to help you feel better. I want to encourage you to become a better person, whatever that might mean to you and whatever that might mean in your life. Another core assumption is that hurt people hurt other hurt people. And that's a big one. When we begin to look at ourselves, who we are, and what life experiences have formed us, we may realize that we have some deep hurts and that out of our hurt, we hurt other people. And we may hurt other people who are also hurt. And when that happens, as a pastor counselor told me years ago, it's like two people come together with their twistedness, thinking they're going to love and care for each other, and their twistedness and their problems get all tangled up until they can't get out of it, and they're just all twisted up. And this is exactly the example that he showed me. And I agreed with him because I was a very hurt person at the time. And I realized that making some sort of effort to be in a relationship with someone else who was hurt, all we ended up doing was hurting each other. So the first core assumption is being better is more important than just feeling better. The second one is that hurt people hurt other people. The third is that without focus on our lives and on the moment and on what we're doing, there are emotional consequences. Without some deliberate focus on what we're doing and what's happening, there are emotional consequences. Now, I'm sure that I could come up with some example of that, but off the top of my head, I don't have one right this moment. But let's think about that for a moment. Let's say that your child runs in from outside. He's been running around happily playing with the dog, and in the rough housing, the dog's or the puppy's teeth just kind of slashed his face a little bit. He comes running in, his face is bleeding, he's crying, and you really didn't see what happened, but you're immediately upset because the dog bit your son. This is a very easy, quick response from the heart of a mother. I know, I've been there. So without focus to calm oneself and focus on this child, solve the problem, stop the bleeding, determine whether you need to take him for stitches or not, you have no real energy or attentiveness to ask your child exactly what happened. We can easily overreact and be upset with our child because he was roughhousing with the dog. We could be very upset and angry with the dog and maybe castigate the dog, put the dog in the kennel. We can do all kinds of things because we're emotionally overwrought because our child is hurt. So when we're not self-aware enough to calm ourselves down and focus step by step on the situation, we can easily overreact. So without focus, there are emotional consequences. Our child could be very upset with us. He's already upset because he's hurt, but more upset with us because we're upset, and things compound. So these five core assumptions. The first is being better is much more important than feeling better. Second one, hurt people hurt other people. Third one, without focus, there are emotional consequences. The fifth one is that our outer world does not necessarily change our inner world. Our outer world does not necessarily change our inner world. That's a little hard to take because our society pushes us towards instant gratification, purchasing something on a whim because it'll make you feel good right then, eating something that will make you feel good right then, going to the store and impulse buying something because, oh, it's so cute and so pretty. And I've done it. We've all done it. But these things that we purchase, the things that we have around us, may give us a sense of fulfillment, a sense of happiness, a sense of joy for a short period of time, but they won't necessarily change our inner world. They won't necessarily actually transform who we are inside. So being better is not more important than feeling, excuse me, being better is more important than feeling better. Hurt people hurt other people. Without focus, there are emotional consequences. The outer world does not change our inner world. And the last one is that doing will not alter our being. Doing will not alter our being. That is a strange thought, isn't it? When I was a very busy mother of 6 children, a single mother for years, I remember one time my mom told me that she felt I was just so busy. I was always doing, 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 and I forgot about being. She said, "It's more important to be than to do, Cynthia." And I really didn't understand at the time. I was like, "Mom, I can't stop. I'm working 18 hours a day, 19, 20, sometimes sleeping only 4 or 5 hours a night. And I can't stop. I can't just worry about me." I had no time for self care, no thought of self care, no thought of who I was, except I needed to work, and take care of my 6 children. But I burned out. And sometimes I just would crash because I was not caring for myself and I was not looking at who I really was. I wasn't being. Excuse me. So, the 5 core assumptions of self awareness, of being aware, are: being is better and much more important than feeling better. Being better is more important. Hurt people hurt other people. Without focus, there are emotional consequences. The outer world does not change our inner world, and doing will not necessarily alter our being. So, the last little thing I want to talk to you about tonight is our past and our future and our present. When I was a little girl, about 4 years old, my father, as a young pastor of a Baptist church in southeastern Wyoming, invited a young man from Argentina who had come to the United States to be educated here. He invited this young man to come and do a presentation in his church about Argentina and about his desire to be a Christian leader in his native country. And when he came to visit us, he did not have a schedule to go on to another church for a couple of weeks. So my parents kindly invited him to stay with them. And he spent a lot of time with my father and visiting people in the church. But he also spent a lot of time with me. I was just a little girl, very curious little girl. And I asked him a lot of questions. I was fascinated with his look, with his accent, with his ability to speak another language, with his stories of his country. And I asked him lots of questions. I don't remember what all I asked him, but I do remember this: that period of time talking with this young man, many times over those period of 2 weeks, I began to be aware of who I am. That experience informed my life in several ways. First of all, I learned that I really cared about other people. I wanted to hear the stories about the people in his country. I had a desire and a heart desire to help, to see if I could somehow help people. I also learned that I loved the sound and the feel and the interest of hearing Spanish. I fell in love with the Spanish language at 4.5 years old. I wanted to learn it. I would learn little words here and there and eventually learn Spanish well. And the third thing that I learned at that age was that I caught a dream, caught a vision of going to South America, hopefully to Argentina, to be a person as a missionary who could assist others and help others to know the Lord Jesus Christ, to know God, to help others to live decent lives, to help others who needed love and care. That was my desire at age 4.5. Now I believe that most of us have some memories of childhood and growing up that informed us into who we are today. You may remember some things from your childhood and your teenage years and be able to reflect on them with this level of self awareness to determine more about who you really are and how you became who you are today. The past is gone, but in some ways it's still with us because our subconscious and our unconscious mind have recorded all of those things that happened and also recorded our interpretation and our response to those things. Now, for me, that situation where I met this young man from Argentina, my response to that was to catch a vision, to learn Spanish, to go to South America one day, to help other people, to serve people, to care about people. That was my response. Were there many other things in my life that augmented that made my response and made helped me become more and more of that type of person? Well, of course. There were other situations in my life that caused me to have some deep-seated anger and frustration. And those things in my adulthood now in the last 20 years or so, close to 30, that I have over and over tried to really get a handle on and understand what happened. How did I view it? Why did I respond with the emotional judgment that I responded with? And how I can kind of undo that now in my adult life. Here we have our past, and then we have the future. Sometimes we look at all the things we have to do this week, next few weeks, the next few months, the next year or two, and we are overwhelmed by all that needs to be done, or we are so uncertain about the future that we're not sure how in the world we're going to handle it, especially if we're writing out a very tough set of circumstances in our lives. We could have a family member that's desperately ill, that's been diagnosed with a disease, with cancer or something else. We could have an elderly parent or two parents that are needing a lot of assistance and are truly going to have to lean on us and others of our family to help them. We could have a child who is really struggling in school, or a child who's grown who is struggling in their own lives as adults, in their own marriages, and with their own children, as I have. We have a myriad of things in our lives that we contemplate in the future. And these things sometimes just keep us up awake at night. Sometimes these things keep us so worked up and so anxious that we can't even manage to live our days out in a way that is healthy. The truth is, ruminating on the past, letting it just fester around and around, or concerning ourselves and worrying about the future, and those things just making a monkey brain of our minds where it goes round and round and round. Neither are healthy, because truly we only have the present moment. Tonight, I have this present moment of being with you and sharing with you. This is the only moment I have. I have no guarantees of tomorrow. Yesterday is gone. Do I plan to be here tomorrow night? Yes, of course. But truly, we only have the present. If you were to look back at an early childhood memory, I would encourage you to think about your own responses to that memory. What were the things that were formed in you from that memory? And what are the impressions you have of other people in that memory? And then think about, how does this memory and that circumstance, how has it affected your life? How has it informed and changed your life, impacted your life today, and the lives of other people also? If we were to do that from time to time, if we were to make a practice of being more self aware and live more in the present, we would free ourselves from much pain from the past and much angst of the future. We would free ourselves from the pain and the problems of the past, and we would free ourselves from the apprehension and the worry and the uncertainty about the future. Do those things go away? No, of course not. But we can be balanced in between, because we can live more in the present. So tonight, before I wrap up, I'd like to share with you a little bit of a meditation. Some ways that you can bring yourself to a quieter place within, even for a few moments. So I'd like to encourage you to find a comfortable posture. Sit down and relax, and invite you to begin this meditation practice by breathing. And as you breathe, just normally appreciate the life that you have. Appreciate what oxygen does for your body as you breathe. Every time you inhale, that life-giving force, and you exhale, and you let go of any tension in your body. Just breathe in and out naturally, calming your heart and spirit and mind. Breathing in, breathing out, letting go of tension in your mind and in your body. Breathe in, breathe out. Slow your heart rate down. Calm your spirit and your mind and your body by breathing slowly. And now, as we continue to breathe normally. Bring to mind a time recently that you've experienced some joy and happiness. Bring to mind something small, perhaps like seeing a friend or watching the sunset or taking your dog for a walk in the woods. Bring to mind the simple joy of lying down at night and resting. And as you continue to breathe at your normal pace and you continue to relax each part of your body, allow yourself to feel this experience of contentment. Look at the situation that you're reflecting on. Look at the details, the color, the smell. And with this intention of cultivating some gratitude, thankfulness for this experience that you've had, Offer yourself a few phrases of appreciative joy. And here are the phrases. Keep this memory in your mind and offer these phrases. I will say the phrases and just repeat them in your mind or softly aloud if you'd like. As you breathe in, breathe out, relax. May my happiness continue. May my happiness grow. May I be present for the joy. May I appreciate the joy in my life. Let's do that again. Breathe in, exhale. Look at that beautiful picture in your mind of the joyful thing that you've experienced recently. And say to yourself, offering these thoughts to yourself, may my happiness continue. May my joy grow. May I be present for the joy. May I appreciate the joy in my life. May my contentment continue. May my contentment grow. May I be present for the joy. May I appreciate the joy in my life. Focus your attention on these words. This intention you have to appreciate the beauty and the joy and the happiness of your life, and that feeling of contentment from your memory. May my happiness continue. May my happiness grow. May I be present for the joy. May I be present for the contentment. May I be present and appreciate the joy in my life. Now think of someone in your life that you love who has experienced something special, something joyful recently. Picture this person in your mind smiling as you observe their joy. And just as you did for yourself, offer phrases of gratitude. Rejoice with them in your mind as much as possible for their happiness. And say to them, may your happiness continue. May your happiness grow. Continue to see them smiling. Visualize this person in their joy. May I be present for your joy. I'm happy for you. When your mind wanders, just bring it back again and look at this person in your mind. Look at the situation that brought them joy and come back to these phrases. May your happiness grow. May your happiness continue. May I be present for your joy. I'm happy for you. In our daily lives, we often do not truly appreciate the moments of contentment, whether they're small or significant. Our brain latches on to the difficult and painful moments and becomes obsessed with solving problems. But with gratitude and appreciation and joy, we can retrain our minds to give weight to our pleasant experiences, however small. In your daily practice of gratitude, in your daily practice of more self awareness, you will begin to notice happiness more often in your life. As you finish this meditation, I encourage you to wiggle your toes, begin to wiggle your body a little bit. Come back to the sense of your present circumstance where you are. Softly open your eyes. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace.